Hello and welcome, Exile, to the Day 3 update to the Luminary Merc bot. Today's theme is about defensive upgrades and quality of life improvements. We did a couple things to upgrade the Merc's damage and clear as well, and we'll go over those. So there's a lot jam-packed in here, and I want to stress that between yesterday and today, yeah, we had the damage before, but now we have the feels good vibes. I can pretty much just turn off my brain. We've hit that point where it doesn't really matter what content we're doing for the most part. I can just relax, I can read chat, and I can have a good time. Most importantly, we fixed some of the survivability of things like my AG, which was dying, now doesn't die. The Spectres don't die, so they're just permanent, consistent buffs, and life is good. So let's go ahead and take a look in-game for what we're looking at here. So, today's theme was, I have to stress this, was a defensive and quality life improvement. Cutting this in because it's massive change to the Luminary. I already thought this class was OP, with the obvious downside of its early game. It's hard to find a good Merc. It's hard to get it online initially when you're trying to assemble some like halfway okay Merc gear. And GGG, I guess they felt similarly, and they decided to apparently massively buff the mercenaries. Now, when you capture a mercenary in early acts, they had a much lower damage than the temporary Mercs, but that damage difference is going to not exist initially when you start out, and then it will add the damage reduction as you get to the 83 Merc. So it no longer punishes you in the early game, and it says, okay, by the time you get to a T16 Merc, then it's fair for us to apply this less damage multiplier. This really helps out any SSF starts or any starts where you don't have good gear. It helps basically bridge that gap between trash geared character and good geared character, giving you a it doesn't apply this huge debuff to your character until you've progressed further, so you can kind of stabilize before that happens, which is really nice. Another thing they also did is apparently they're going to adjust the damage scaling and attack damage dealing height so they are more effective in end game. So apparently attack mercenaries across the board they're going to buff, which is crazy to me because I thought attack mercenaries were some of the better ones. That being said, I did have multiple chatters who tried out, for example, Absolution. I had a lot of people say Absolution Merc's really good. I had a lot of people say the Flamehand Merc carried them decently. There was some, I haven't tried a lot of the Spellcaster Mercs. So for all I know, maybe some of the Caster Mercs are actually insane. So pretty interesting. We're getting some huge buffs to the Mercenary with the damage penalty change and the higher damage. It also is going to be the case where the mercenaries, I think what they say, to aid obtaining a stronger mercenary while you have a weaker one, we've added a new notable in the Atlas Passive Tree that causes allied mercs to deal more damage. So a lot of times you'd have your weak mercenary, you want to upgrade to a stronger one, you'd buy the warrant, and it was a hard freaking fight. There's now a notable on the tree that you can grab to help you beat that fight better. I would also recommend doing Domination Scarabs and a find the Merc, and then click all the Domination Shrines before the fight, so that way you go into that fight with you juiced up. The Shrines also affect your Merc. Stuff like that to ensure you're not going to lose this fight. But anyways, I didn't expect this at all. I thought Merc was OP, but GGG said, you know what? Yeah, our bad. The Mercs early on are just a bit too rough. People got screwed on league starts. We're going to make it so the early game is way better. So freaking hats off to GGG for buffing the early game. Hopefully, this helps a lot of people who are just still early on and progressing. We'll see how much the change makes. I don't know if this patch already went live or not. It might have. Or if it's just something they're going to patch but haven't done yet. I'm just waking up today after reading this patch last night, so I don't know if it went live in the middle of the night. So anyways, back to the rest of the video. Hopefully, this encourages you about the mercenary that you're going to get some sweet buffs. And yeah, back to the rest of the video. You'll notice specifically, now I'm going to actually mute my audio here because the perfect warlord, if I sit and hide out, he war cries a lot, and that's one of the changes we made to defensively improve, but he is kind of annoying if you're AFKing and hide out. Now, you'll notice the tree looks a hell of a lot different. A few important things happened here. Number one is I got rid of war cries. Now, war cries are strong, but I wanted to stop clicking them. Our character is strong enough where I can get away without clicking them, and our build still dominates, so I decided I'd rather have those passives back. And I use getting those passives back in order to add Versatile Combatant, which allows us to go block for spell block, even though we don't have Tempest Shield, and I wanted to get no more stuns, so I went for Unwavering Stance. That's why I swapped the trees here. Initially, we started out going this first path here because we needed to support Righteous Fire. The regen helped. Everything worked that way, but in late game, when you start getting the higher levels and you get better gear to support not needing war cries as much, your character starts to do enough damage where you want to press less buttons, this is what I'd recommend transitioning into. Now, you may also notice there's a lot of tattoos on our tree because number one, the Foulborn Red Dream supports fantastically for getting yourself a lot of extra increased life. It also means capping your res on fire is a bit easier. So that's the pathing going through here. And you'll notice we have a bunch of regen tattoos. One of the big things about our character is I wanted to get our regen popping off. So that way, even if I didn't have a war cry procced, our character would still have good sustain. Previously, if we didn't have our war cry, our enduring cry procced, we would have very not that much sustain, and that's because I didn't tattoo much of the strength nodes, but any extra strength you can, I'd recommend tattooing. Another thing which I haven't done yet, which I'm going to add, is Rational Doctrine for curse reduction and regen. That should end up feeling really good, but I haven't gotten around to adding that to the character. Another thing with Versatile Combatant when you add this is I'd recommend making sure you get chance to block, attack while holding shield, plus percent life. Those are kind of the double affixes we're looking for on our jewels. So I have a bunch of affixes or jewels with like two affixes with life and block is what I started adding here to help us get the spell block. We are up to 53 and 68 spell block. If I get hit and I get damaged, I have an Abyssal Jewel with attack block if I've been hit recently. If this jewel had that stat, I would instantly go to cap spell block. So I just need to improve this jewel here, and we will be at attack and spell block capped. Basically, just depending on did you get hit by a damaging hit recently. And the part where block is important is shotgun damage. So it's basically very, very consistent for that purpose. So that's getting us block cap. Unwavering Stance is giving us stun immunity. Tattoos are getting us regen. That has to do with the tree changes we have made to the character. Now let's talk a bit about the gear changes. Previously, we were holding a bunch of gear from day one that I picked up, just bargain bin shopping, 2 chaos here, 3 chaos there, and we decided, you know what, it's fine, finally time, we're going to invest into our own character. And the goal here was to get life regenerate and high life rares with either some chaos res or like movement speed prefix, and then fix some of our eldritch implicits. So for example, boots and gloves, the goal was buying some cheaper fractures with life regenerate, 17%, 18%, 19%. If you buy 21%, they get a lot more expensive. Also, if you buy more expensive like bases, it gets more expensive. So be okay. It's not the end of the world if you have a hybrid armor evasion base or a hybrid armor ES base. Save yourself some money. The armor doesn't make that much of a difference. We aren't super invested into it. It helps. Like Leviathan, gloves, and greaves are going to be the best in slot base, but don't kill yourself spending too much money on one of those bases. Next up, I added one abyssal socket. I'm not sure if I should have done this. I kind of maybe still want to have one more socket in my gear. I may end up going back on this, but I just did a aberrant fossil plus a hollow fossil plus sanctified fossil trying to hit chaos res. And if I hit not chaos res, I could have annulled and done suffix came change, reforged chaos to try to hit chaos res. Just go for around T3 or higher chaos res. Right now, my character with just 2 chaos res Okay, so apparently, I guess I got Chaos Res somewhere else. Oh, that's right. I randomly slammed Chaos Res after I had already Chaos Res capped when I crafted my ring. But anyways, point is, you could probably take off some Chaos Res on one of these items. I invested into too much here on accident. Because one of my final items, I just RNG slammed to Chaos Res, which was really cool, but it was completely unnecessary, but I didn't want to roll over it because it was kind of cool. Anyways, so that's boots, or that's gloves. For boots, you do Essence of like Sorrow if you need dex, or yeah, Essence of Sorrow if you need dex. You're gonna need dex for things like the faster attacks or things like precision. So that's why I did that. I went until I hit int. That allows, technically you can tattoo more of your int nodes. You don't actually need the int to hit though, or you might need just a little bit on a jewel somewhere type of thing. So depends really what like suffixes you have on rings and stuff. It's a little bit flexible here. This could be a resistance, something like that. The other thing you're gonna do is then do a bristle matron for suffix can't be changed, and you're going to use Veiled Chaos, block life or mana, unveil movement speed, and then block mana and do the All Flame Slams to try to get life. So that's what we did, Eldritch Crafting for the gloves and the boots. As for the rings, this is all about just getting life plus light radius mod. For me, I just bought 2 Elder Rings, and the reason I did that is because I thought this would be a cheap way to get some extra life, is a Bound by Destiny with 15% life was like 40 chaos. So I grabbed some Elder Rings and I did Reforge attacks till I get the T1 Light Radius mod. I did these on items where I'd added strands to. I actually would really highly recommend checking this out for a lot of different crafts. It could be worth looking into, but adding an item to have a bunch of strands on it and then doing like harvest crafting until you get like a specific affix you want to start with. Maybe you isolate it, maybe you remove some other affixes, and then do all flame slam crafting. The strands mean you get like T2 or higher pretty much on all your 4 options. So it's really strong to hit some pretty good affixes with all flame crafting if you have strands on the item. And you get strands through Remembrance Orbs. So that's kind of what I did for these 2 rings here. And then for the helmet, we've swapped into Hollowed Monarch for 2 reasons. Number 1 is Light Radius is good. It helps us get more damage from our Flame Wing. But option number 2, or reason number 2, is the line that says the linked minions take less damage. Specifically, 75% less, which means no longer are our Spectres or our AG dying. We didn't just do that, though. We also added in a Perfect Warlord instead of the Frenzy Monkey, because we now have a Frenzy generation source separate from the Frenzy Monkey, and this guy gives endurance charges to everybody. So even though we lost Enduring Cry, this guy is way more consistent about casting his War Cry and keeps us at permanent 3 endurance charges basically throughout all zones. So now we have permanent 10 Fortify, we have permanent 3 endurance charges that are consistent, that don't require us to cast any War Cries, and we're just having a better time. So Perfect Warlord, and then remember the Onslaught guy is just regular Forest Warrior. So that's the changes there. Another change we made on these, I want to point out, is we went for Brittle Ground. What this means, if I shield charge like through a boss, it'll put Brittle Ground. That gives 2 base crit, which is good for damage. And then on top of that, the Mercenary wearing Taming, that counts as another elemental ailment, which gives more damage. But it doesn't stop there. We also added in Scorch via our block shield. So we're investing into this versatile combatant to get block. Now, if an enemy hits us, we block. Boom, they're scorched. That's another ailment for some more damage and some more minus res. Ideally, you'd want this shield to be with like max res, recover on block, PDR. You'd have to do a recom craft. I was kind of just being a cheapo about it, and I just did some loathing essences until I hit recover on block, and I just settled. But if you really want to try hard at recover on block, PDR, max res, and then do prefix crafting afterwards, that would be the way to go. Another thing I want to take note of here about the shield is I did 8 quality. The reason I did that is just so I could have a bit faster shield charge and attack speed. So my shield charges feels pretty good now. You don't have to do this. Best in slot prefixes would be like percent life, block chance, something like that. But you get what I'm saying is this shield provides Scorch, another ailment for the mercenaries for the taming. Next up, we also got another ailment through the Animate Guardian, which is, you'll see here, it says unique enemy in your present has sapped ground while moving. So what this means is if the AG walks up to a monster and hits it, sapped ground is down, and boom, another ailment. So we've covered all 3 of the alternate ailments from 2 boot mods, our boots and the AG's boots, and then the Scorch mod on our shield. Obviously, we used to have Legacy of Fury here. Since I had Scorch from the shield, this was a good alternative to get all 3 now. And of course, we did some grand Ickers. We were looking for either increased regeneration rate or regen if you have endurance charges. So we get endurance charges to the AG from the Perfect Warlord, and now he has some regen. Lastly, on the AG, we added Doppelgangers, means every time he gets hit, 10% regen, and he takes less damage with Chaos and Fizz. This made it more tanky. The next 2 improvements I'm going to go for, but haven't done yet, is going to be a Malediction helmet, probably, and a Pinnacle or Unique Intimidate gloves, which is just way more chance that it procs Intimidate, so it can be useful right away for the damage. Okay, so that covers AG. That covers my character's gear improvements, and that covers the tree changes. Also, one thing I don't know if I mentioned, but eventually I'd like to add Rational Doctrine too. All right, so that covers the tree changes, the AG, and the Spectre changes. Now, lastly, we upgraded multiple pieces to the Merc bot. Number 1 is the bow. We swapped out of Lion Eyes to a +2 arrow bow. Yesterday, I showcased you don't need that good of a bow to get similar damage to a Lion Eyes. And with that realization, I said, you know what? Let's actually try to make a good bow. And we went ahead and crafted a +2 arrow bow. This is very important. Let's say you have a really good Val Eyeshot Merc, but the regular Eyeshot doesn't have extra proj. This would make that Merc feel much, much better for clear. And so that really helps. If you already have GMP on your Eyeshot, regular Eyeshot, even then it still feels like a nice little extra improvement, which you probably noticed in the footage I showcased of some T17s running around. This is basically going to try to fracture +2 arrows and then doing Essence of Loathing so you hit T1 attack speed. And then prefix crafting, the goal would be Ellie Pen, increased elemental damage with attacks, and gain fire is extra. I did some previous crafting. I hit elemental and increased elemental damage once, and then I failed to annul off the bad mod. So it is what it is. I'll probably do some more previous crafting later, and then add the attack speed enchant. It's important we get base crit here. We aren't super invested into crit right now in terms of increased crit chance, but we can start adding more through things like this anoint. Aspect of the Links is not the right anoint. You actually want King of the Hill, 100% increased crit chance would help a lot, or something like this. Lethality, 30 crit multi, 50 crit chance. This is probably actually even better. But we're going to start adding increased crit chance into the build. We have power charges through Assassin's Mark, stuff like that. The goal is to start taking advantage of crit multi throughout the build. Another thing I want to take note of here is I said we got another frenzy charge source. The way we did this is we bought bows that had the fractured mod, and then I recombinated them to raise the item level so that way I could get T1 bow damage. Obviously, I only have T3 bow damage. I was running out of currency and I couldn't afford to prefix craft more. So this is something I'll improve later. But this allows for the Merc to generate frenzies consistently from attacking super fast, and it gives attack speed and crit multi. You can also go for +1 arrow here as well instead of attack speed. I was going to be happy if I hit +1 arrow or attack speed and I hit attack speed first. So that's what I went with on the quiver. Now, we used to have the frenzy gain mod on the body armor, but since we got the frenzy mod here, that frees up the ability for us to do different prefixes on the body armor. Now, the body armor specifically is not finished for the implicits. I hit recoup and I settled. I was basically completely broke. This is like one of the last items I did on the Merc at this point. But you want to go for, you can get pinnacle crit multi, which can go up to like 40 crit multi. You can do power charge gen, which is just meaning the power charges are going to be there while you're mapping and not just when you do Assassin's Mark for single target. So there's other options there. I just haven't re-rolled the implicits. Don't copy these implicits. This is just what I settled on because I was basically broke at this point. Now, this happened a little bit earlier. We also crafted a helmet. I'd recommend getting like fractured accuracy. I think you need about 1 accuracy roll between precision, the accuracy from the ManyShot's dex, and 1 accuracy roll plus the increased accuracy they have right here. That should get the Merc accuracy capped over 4,000. So that's why I went with fractured accuracy. And then I did a hollowed prismatic sanctified. I took the first thing I hit because it was like T4 res, and I was like, that's good enough. I'll settle. But I'd recommend not settling if you are still under the cap for the pen. The only reason I justified settling is because I got very, very lucky right here. And this is something that you will not be doing for a while until you're really ready to min-max, and that is Volatile Vowling and Enmity's Embrace. I had no right getting this. I gambled 2, and I got extremely lucky. The way this works is you have to, when you click a Volatile Vow, you have to win a 50-50 that it doesn't just delete the item. Then the Volatile Vow has to divine the item low, and then on top of that, it needs to hit it with a very good less multiplier to make the number go as low as possible. This is very RNG. It takes a lot to do this. The best roll you can get is 51. I couldn't believe when I hit this in 2 orbs. I was fully expecting to just delete 2 Volatile Vows and delete 2 enmities. But this is the thing that makes it so you can have not particularly perfect res gear and still get to 275 fire res. Now, our character in the hideout, this says 264, but that doesn't factor in our purity of elements, which will be applying to the Merc. The Merc is actually fully 200 pen capped now. And Untouched Soul technically could also help you get there if you just have a good good enmities, but not like a Volatile Vowed one. If you have Volatile Vowed Untouched Soul, which should be easier to Volatile Vow, you can Volatile this up to 15 and then get res quality to make it go up to 18 all res. I just have one that has 14 all res, which is what you would get if you just qualityed it. So yeah, that's all the Merc upgrades. That goes over the character gearing upgrades and what we've done from day 3. We're currently at a slash played of about a day and a half, so we're having a good time. I would go ahead and showcase a Uber synth. I'll showcase an Uber synth real quick to close out the day. I'll map around, show you what the character looks like while mapping. And then going forward, there's still some really big upgrades we got to do for the ManyShot, but we're almost to the point where I'm satisfied to call this a fairly like good ManyShot setup, and I'll start maybe assembling gear for some different Merc setups. That's going to be maybe where we're looking at. Maybe one more update video for the ManyShot setup, and then we'll maybe consider doing some other updates for other versions of the character, as this setup is getting pretty dang min-maxed at this point. What do we got for mods? Reduced curse effect hurts our Assassin's Mark, but otherwise these are pretty easy mods, I think. Well, in terms of Yeah, these are pretty easy mods. Usually you get like, you know, onslaught, increased AoE, increased life, giga res, stuff like that, but we did not. So these guys will probably just fall over pretty easily. And yeah, this is just some nice day 3 progress for the ManyShot. Hopefully I've covered most of the upgrades today. I'm going to try to do update the POB with the new gear sets, so that way you can look at that in the POB or on the Mobalytics. And yeah, well, I'll get to streaming right after I get this video uploaded, and we might start looking at... Well, okay, there's maybe a couple more upgrades I want to do for the ManyShot that I think would actually be really strong for it, and then after that, we might enter a Legion phase, because I want to start enshrouding. There's a really cool setup I think we can pull off with the new enshroud items for this build, and it's when we start looking at maybe doing an ivory setup. I keep talking about it, but I think there's actually a insane version of this build with ivory, but that remains to be seen, because in order to get that going, I need to step into Legion and I need to start enshrouding for very specific items. So that will be a very interesting endeavor, to say the least. We'll see how that turns out for me. I don't know what to expect. I haven't tried any Legion yet, so I don't know. I don't expect. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it goes decently though. But it's gonna be an RNG fiesta. It might take me multiple days or maybe even a week or something to try to farm the specific enshroud I need. I'm not really sure what to expect there. So yeah. Anyways, that's what it looks like doing Uber Cortex on day 3. Yeah, that's pretty much it. As for, real quick, one of the gem sockets I changed, getting rid of Warcries, Convocation, and Automation. Just consistently proc some regen for the Spectres, keep making sure they stay alive. Before I had it, the Onslaught guy was maybe dying just slowly throughout fights because there was no source of regen for him, and that procs some regen for him. Also, if you add a Rational Doctrine, if they ever step on the Conqueror and you step on, that will give regen as well. And another thing that I haven't done is I need to add a Bottle of Faith here. This gold flask is doing absolutely nothing for the build, because our rarity, it doesn't matter. The Merc's rarity matters, and we're not using a Sentry anymore, but I just haven't swapped that yet. So yeah, anyways, that is the day 3 update. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the progress of the character.